Alright guys, and welcome to another Lorcana Go video. I just want to go over this deck that I've been working on. It is a $58 aggro deck, and I have been winning games against tier 1 decks with it. And I just want to go over it with you. Share it with my wonderful subscribers. Alright, in the one, I'm going to do the characters first, and I'm going to go from least ink to most ink. So our first character that we have is the 2/2 1 lore 4/1 inkable Kidda. Now I think Kidda is the best aggro card in the game because of her 5 ink Kidda, that is a 3/5, who quests for 2 lore and gives all characters -3 strength until the start of your next turn. She shifts for 3. So obviously this Kidda is not the best 1-drop for aggro, but because she is a shift target for the bigger Kidda, she becomes a must, I believe, in any amber aggro deck that you're trying to make. So there she is, 4 Kiddas. Moving on, we have 4 Chernobog's followers. This is a 2/1 that quests for 1 lore and is inkable. You're going to notice something here that we aren't using the Lilos or the Maleficents, who are 2 lore 1-drops. Both of those are uninkable and are pretty vanilla in terms of what they can do once they're out there. So they don't have much flexibility, and a lot of times they're just really, really bad. Chernobog's Followers gives you the ability to banish them to draw a card when they quest. So if it's a good board, you can just leave them out there to keep gaining lore. But if it's a bad board, you can gain your 1 lore and then you can draw a card. And I believe this actually is better currently in aggro decks than the Lilos and Maleficents of the world, especially it being inkable. Inkable is a big thing. All right, and then we have 4 Pascals. Pascal is a 1/1, 4/1 inkable who quests for 1 lore, but if you have another character in play, he is evasive. So Pascal will, on average, gain you more lore than any of the 2 lore 1-drops. At least I've found in my extensive testing of aggro decks. Because I'm an aggro player. I want to play aggro. Unfortunately, it's like in a really kind of shitty spot in Disney Lorcana because they just have way too many good removal cards. They just outclass the aggro cards. So you really can't just play like a sly aggro. You can't just calculate, all right, well, what's the most lore I can get as fast as I can get? Because you can't outpace the Grab Your Swords and the Let the Storms Rage On and all those other kind of removal cards. The Mim Fox, so on and so forth. So you have to kind of play a little more tricky, and your cards have to give you more flexibility than just straight lore. And anyway, Pascal does that. So he's a 4 of, and he's very, very good. Now getting to our 2-drops, we have 4 Piglets. Piglet is a 2/2. He quests for 1 lore, and he's inkable. But if you have 2 other characters in play, at least 2 others, he gets +2 lore. So he's basically a Pinocchio that you can ink and is a 2/2 instead of a 1/1. Sometimes you won't be able to get his I'm the captain ability off, but usually it will be on. So for the most part, he's just better than Pinocchio. He gets you the same lore. He's a little beefier, and you can ink him if he's not going to be good. So that is why we have Piglet, and Piglet is great. All right, moving on. We have 4 Cusco's Wanted Llama. He's a 1/2 that quests for 1 lore. He is inkable, but his big thing here is that when he is banished, you draw a card. It doesn't have to be banished in a challenge, just banished, and you draw a card. So he is much better in the face of Grab Your Swords and Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire than other 2-drops are, because when he dies, you get to draw a card, and that's pretty big. All right, now we're getting to our 3-drops, and our first uninkable. But he is worth it. He is Baloo. He's an 0/3. He bodyguards. And when he's banished, dies in any way, you're going to gain 2 lore. So he has a lot of flexibility, like most of these cards do. You can curve out and play him on 3. Like you can play a Pascal into a Piglet into a Baloo, and that's maybe his best line, because you're going to get 2 shots in with Piglet if they don't have some sort of removal spell. Or you just play him, and he quests for 1 lore, and when they kill him, you gain 2 more lore. So they kind of have to deal with him, and you're getting a guaranteed 2 lore. And in this deck, getting a guaranteed 2 lore is very strong, and we'll see that in our game that we play a little later. All right, next 3-drop is the Maleficent Sorceress. Again, it's just a 2/2, 1 lore, but when you play it, you're going to draw a card, and it's just another character that that helps you not auto lose to a Grab Your Swords. Because when you're playing Lilos and the 1/1 Maleficents and the Pinocchios and the Arthurs and those guys, like, they're more lore, sure, in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a very unbalanced world of Disney Lorcana, where the removal spells just totally outclass the aggro cards, and that's why we're not really seeing aggro decks. But Maleficent kind of helps you overcome that unfairness by replacing herself when she comes into play. So she's a great 3-drop. I don't even have a way to bounce her. She's just straight up a 2/2 that draws me a card, and I don't have any tricks. I did have Merlin Snake in this deck, but he was like a Nombo with Piglet, so I replaced him with Cusco, and Cusco works a lot better with Piglet than Merlin Snake does, and Piglet's super important in this deck. So anyway, Maleficent, just a 2/2, 1 lore, draws you a card, and we have no way to bounce her. Well, yeah, we have no way to bounce her. There's no like tricks involved with her. It's just straight up, like, that's a great ability in this game. All right, now to our 4-drops. We have Merlin Goat. Merlin Goat is, I think, the best like burn spell in the game. You play him, you gain a lore. He dies, you gain a lore, and sometimes he even gets to quest and gain you a lore. So he's gaining you a lot of lores, and he will win you games. He is the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. He's the GOAT. A couple of GOATs. All right, now to the best card in the deck, and that is Kida, Protector of Atlantis. There's just so much you can do with her. She totally, like, I play her, and opponents still really don't know what she does. She's only a $6 card, and I think she's better than that. So you might as well buy your playsets now, I would advise. Anyway, you shift her on, and you can play, this deck can play her for 5. You do get 5 ink, because all your cards are inkable for the most part. So you're not really hurting for ink, so you don't have to shift her. You can actually just play her out on turn 5. But there are definitely instances where you want to shift her right away on turn 3, because it will get you extra lore, a lot of extra lore. So, like, let's say you play a Kida, and then you play a Cusco, and then on turn 3, like, you have like a Baloo maybe, or like a Maleficent. You can shift the Kida, right? You can get 3 lore in, and their Captain Hooks and their Rafikis or whatever they have out, they can't kill your guys. They can't retaliate the next turn. So you're gonna get another attack in with those guys, and you may have like a Baloo, or you may have another Kida, or you may have some other way to protect your guys. So she kind of gets the protect your guys train rolling. Like, you have Befuddles and I'm Stucks, so you can Kida on turn 3. You can get the extra lore in, and then they might quest with their guys because they can't attack, and then you can I'm Stuck them, and they still can't kill your guys, and the lore will add up pretty fast. Anyway, Kida is not replaceable in this deck. I don't think any of the cards that I've gone over so far are replaceable. Maybe Chernobog's Followers, maybe Maleficent. You can play around with those, but Kida is a must for of. All right, moving on to our actions and songs. We have 4 Befuddles. Befuddled is good. Again, it can send a Captain Hook or a Cinderella or a Rafiki back to the hand, and you can really pick up a lot of tempo and get a lot of extra lore in because of it. Because not only are you sending like their 1-drop back to their hand, like say they play a Rafiki and you send it back to their hand, now they can't like quest and Mim Snake it. If they want to play it again on turn 2, then they can't play their 2-drop. It does more than you think it does when you befuddle one of their guys, especially on the first turn. So I really like befuddle. It's better than I'm stuck. But we have I'm stuck because the matchups where befuddle isn't good, I'm stuck is for the most part. This I'm stuck can be very, very good. Like I'm stucking a Maui. Like say they play a Maui and they kill your, I don't know, one of your dinky creatures. And then I'm stucked it. They used an entire turn to play a Maui. You know, they killed your Cusco or something. Who knows what they killed? But they killed something way worse than a Maui. And they used their whole turn to do it. And then on your next turn, you pay 1 ink. And you say, all right, Maui, you don't get to do anything next turn. And that's like a pretty big swing. And it can help you get several extra lore in throughout the course of a game. Just with one I'm stuck. So I'm stuck is in there. It's been good, but it is a card you could replace. And then to our songs, we have 2 bosses on a roll. This card, when it's good, is really good, but it's not always good. And I started out with 4, and then I went down to 3, and now I'm at 2, and I like having 2 in the deck. It can win you the game. Like, say you're at 16, 17 lore, and you only have a bosses on a roll in your hand. You can play it, and you can find a goat, or you can find a spell book, or you can find a Baloo, and you can get that guaranteed lore that you need to finish out a game. And so bosses on a roll will win you some games. And yeah, so it's in there. I think you guys will like it if you play with it. Now, for items, we have 3 Sorcerer spell books. This card is really good in some matchups, and then in some matchups it's not that good. Just if they have item removal, make sure that you never just straight play it for 3. You want to play it and then be able to use it on the same turn you play it, just in case they bend it or something. Like you still get 1 lore from it. Like it sucks, but you want to make sure that you're still getting a lore from it. So don't just play it on turn 3. I mean, you basically never want to play this on turn 3 anyway. It's really a card that you want to be playing on turn 4, 5, or 6. And so when I actually see these in my opening hand, I'm almost always mulliganing them because I'd rather just draw into them. All right, now we have 11 locations. Not many people play locations, but I think they're better than people think. Like turn 1 Neverland on the play is one of the best things you can do in this deck. Now, I would rather play, well, depending on the matchup. So like Pascal's almost always better on turn 1 than Neverland's going to be. But Neverland is like a really solid turn 1 drop, especially against slower decks. And then if you get it later game where it's not going to be any good, you can just dink it. And like that's okay. Then we have 4 Forbidden Mountains. It is a 2-drop and it's a 1/6. Now I've been thinking about maybe Pride Lands. Pride Lands is also a 2-drop, but it's a 1/7. It gains you the same lore, and it has an ability that isn't irrelevant. Like you do have Cusco Wanted Llama, who is a king that you can put on the Pride Lands, and you can make all your other guys cost 1 less, and you can also move your other guys there to make them beefier. So like a Baloo on a Pride Lands all of a sudden is a 0/5 bodyguard instead of a 0/3, which is quite a large difference. All of a sudden he takes 2 hits from Robin Hood or 2 hits from the Fox. So Pride Lands might be a replacement for the Forbidden Mountain. I'm not sure. I am going to try with it. I'm just afraid that it's uninkable. The only reason any of these sites are good is because they're inkable. Because sometimes playing a site is just so bad that it needs to be inkable. So I don't know. I might mess around with Pride Lands a little bit. But for now, they're not in there. It's just the Forbidden Mountain. And then we have 3 Queen's Castles. Queen's Castle gives you 2 lore for 4 ink. It's a 1/7, so it's hard to kill. It survives a Maui. It takes 3 hits from Robin Hood. It's really strong. And then also, you can move your characters to it for 1, and then at the start of your turn, you draw a card for each character that's there. So this card's kind of busted, and it can win you some games. Like if your game gets a little drawn out and you get a Queen's Castle down and you put like a Pascal on it or something, just one extra card per turn is huge with this deck, because you get a lot of lore in early, and then the hard part is just getting the last few, and that's why we have the spellbook and the bosses on a roll and the goats and the blues. So you need just it helps you find those. It gives you a little bit of draw, and when it's not good, it's inkable, so you can just ink it. Anyway, that is the deck. Also, it's only $58, so that's another thing. So like real life, maybe you can't afford a $500 deck, but you can afford a $58 deck. And this deck, I've beaten every tier 1 deck with this. My matchups seem to be pretty good. Now, is it the best deck in the format? No, it's not the best deck in the format. But can you go to a F&M? I mean, they obviously don't call it F&M, but can you go Friday night to your local game store and play in a tournament with this thing and win? You absolutely can. Anyway, so you're going to see a game where I am on the draw. I wanted to show a game where I'm on the draw against red-purple. So that's coming up next. All right, guys. Now, welcome to the game. Here we go. We are on the draw against Amethyst Ruby. So we have our first hand here. We're going to get rid of the Queen's Castle, the Forbidden Mountain, and the I'm Stuck. We're going to keep the Kita, the Cusco. Oh, we actually changed our mind. We're going to keep the Forbidden Mountain. And then, so this is our starting hand. We got 2 Merlin Goats, a Kita, the Mountain, the Befuddle, the Cusco, and the 5-drop Kita, the Shift Kita. We are also on the draw this time, so you're going to get to see how this deck does on the draw. It's very important to win on the draw now, because all these tournaments are best of 2, which I won't get started on in this video. Anyway, our opponent inks a followers and plays a followers. We draw another Befuddle. We're going to get rid of one of our goats. And we're going to play the Kita, and we're going to pass the turn. So here, we didn't Befuddle the followers, because I think that he's just going to probably draw the card off of it anyway. Even though I think that's wrong here. I think a lot of people just think that they attack and draw the card 100% of the time. But in this situation, I wouldn't draw the card. I would just leave it out on the board. He decides to draw the card, which is what we thought was going to happen. So that's good for us. That saves us a Befuddle. We can ink it now. We can also ink this other Kita. We don't need 2. So we are going to ink the Kita, which I think is right. And now we can either play the Cusco or the Forbidden Mountain. Either one is fine, but I like the Mountain here. This Mountain's going to be a problem. Like, he has no board, and that's why he shouldn't have used the Chernobog's ability. Not that the Chernobog could kill the Mountain anytime soon, but this Mountain into an empty board is just very, very strong. So he's going to ink the Rafiki, which I don't know what else he had in his hand. He's going to play a Maleficent, draw a card, but cards aren't going to be his issue this game. I don't really like his play there. I think the Rafiki would have just been maybe Rafiki something else. But again, I can't see his hand. But this Mountain has already gained us 1 lore. We're going to ink the Befuddle. We're going to I think we should play Maleficent here. I don't remember what I did, but we could have also shifted the Kita, but we did play the Maleficent, and that's right. But as you can see with the Kita, we could shift that, and it would have protected both our Kita that was in play, and it would have protected the Forbidden Mountain, and we would have gained another lore. But I think holding Kita is for the best. Now here he decides he wants to draw 2 more cards again. I don't know if he can't comprehend what he's playing against, but he needs to be putting things on the board, not drawing cards. I mean, he sung that, but I think he should have traded out for the Kita there. And now he plays a Cusco, which is just not very intimidating. But this is the Amethyst Ruby deck, and that's just like what it does. But here I think it's not going to be good enough. So I draw a Queen's Castle, and I don't think that it's going to be a relevant card this game. I think this game's either going to end or not. So here I befuddle his Cusco, which is just brutal for him. Now we're going to kill his Maleficent. And we can get in there with Kita, or we can ink shift. I like just not shifting Kita yet. We still don't need to use it. And we're getting close to the point where we can actually just play it for 5 if we need to. So here, I think that I want to play the Llama and also a Pascal. So I need to ink a card. I choose to ink the Goat, which I think is fine. Because I still have that Forbidden Mountain in play. And that thing is just racking up the lore. Sites can be good. When you play them at the right time, they can be good. Like, even if he has a Maui here, like, okay, he can Maui my Forbidden Mountain. But it's already done its damage, as far as I'm concerned. But he didn't have Maui, he had Jim Hawkins, and he puts it on his Queen's Castle. So he's going to be drawing more cards, but again, I don't think that's going to be his, I don't think that's going to help him this game. I think he's under just too much duress here. Also, we have the Kita. So we're going to shift the Kita. We're going to get in for an extra lore because of that. And now as Jim Hawkins can't follow up and kill any of our guys, we actually ink our Queen's Castle because I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think I need to play that. I don't think I need to draw any extra cards this game. Also, if Cusco dies, I draw an extra card. He's still 2 ink away from the Be Prepared. So he can't play this turn. He can ink, and he's going to be 1 short of the Be Prepared. And that's going to be a little too late for him. And we just need to get... he plays a Merlin Rabbit. He draws another card, but like all this card advantage is, and he's got 2 guys on his Queen's Castle, but he already has 6 cards in his hand. I don't care if he draws more. He's on a clock here. His Jim Hawkins can't kill any of my guys, so he's probably on a quest with it. I don't know. All right, he's got 5 lore. All right, now it's my turn. And we have a lot of... No, Befuddle's not really a card we want to see there. I'm Stuck would have been much better there to stick the Jim Hawkins. But we are at 18. We have a Forbidden Mountain in play. And also, so now all we have to do is draw a Baloo or one of our Merlin Goats or a Sorcerer's Spellbook or a Boss is on the Roll. We have so many cards in our deck that just end the game if we see them. And that's why we have those extra reach kind of cards in this deck, because oftentimes, so like here he's going to kill my Forbidden Mountain and he's going to cast Be Prepared. And he has a handful of cards, and I'm sure he has Lady Tremaines, and he has Madame Medusas, and he has more Be Prepareds. So playing like a character doesn't do anything for me. We need something that's just going to give us lore. So we can get a Goat, we can get a Boss, we can get a Sorcerer's Spellbook, we can get a Baloo. We happen to get the Merlin Goat, but half our deck there, well, we also got a Baloo. So we got 2 of the cards that we needed, and we could have played either or there. We played the Goat because I am the Goat, so I thought it would be fitting. But we could have also played the Baloo, and the Baloo would have ended the game. Because he can't kill it. What can he do? So I do give my opponent respect here. They decide to end things on their own terms. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose their way. And I think that's the way to go out. I think it's always best to lose on your own terms. So what he's going to do here is he's going to think. He's going to think long and hard. How can he win this game? How can he lose this? He can't win this game, but how can he lose this game with style? And it's by playing a Lady Tremaine, causing his own demise. And very rarely do you lose a game on your turn, but my opponent did it. He lost a game on his turn, and that is very, very cool. So good for him. Anyway, that's the video.